Afternoon. Thank you for coming. I would like first Nicola to say a few words about the collaboration you will soon start or already have started with Douglas, and then we will go into the raffinatesse of what Douglas is doing, because it's I'm amazed by these colors and the fluid language he speaks, and I think it's very interesting to understand his ambitions, but also the way he resolved it technically. But before I give the word to Nicola,
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Birgit. Good evening, all. It's really a pleasure to be here today with you. It's good to be all together, finally back in Milan for Salone del Mobile. Very glad to support this initiative, and together with the DAAily group. It started completely by chance, just bumping into Stefan into a conference, and now we are here to present this amazing project. Very glad to support it, because really it's highlighting the dialogue between the world of art and environment. And this is something that matters for BALLY. It matters because this dialogue between art, architecture, design is integral part of BALLY history. Integral part of its DNA we have been collaborating with graphic designers. For instance, in the 1900s, we have been collaborating with Bernard Villemot. Later on, mid-century, with very famous architects. Paris Capucine store was designed by Mallet Stevens. We have been doing also collaboration with Le Corbusier. Also in the world of photography, BALLY has been collaborating since very early with famous photographers. So, for instance, Gunther Sachs. So BALLY has been always promoting this collaboration and this dialogue between brands and also artists. And today we continue to do so through our foundation. We have a foundation for art and culture in Switzerland, and we are very happy to support artists through this foundation. By the way, we'll be opening very soon a physical place for our foundation on the shore of Lugano Lake, the Villa Eleneum, where this place will be dedicated to artists, to give them a space to show their work. So I invite you to join us later on this year on the shore of Lugano Lake.
But is this, sorry to interrupt you, a project for young artists, upcoming artists, or do you have collaborations also with established who will maybe guide younger artists? Do you have already plans for how your foundation would work?
Yeah, absolutely. For the time being, we have been supporting young artists, but our foundation is evolving, and we don't want to limit ourselves to emerging artists. Obviously, we feel a responsibility of supporting emerging artists, but we don't want to limit us, and we want this place to be a dialogue between the brand and the world of art. So this is what we will be doing soon in Villa Eleneum, where this place will be an open space for artists and to engage in dialogue between the brand and the world of art. So we are extremely excited. It will be launching later on this year, with a grand opening, and September 23, where really will be up and running.
Very soon. But did you already start to collaborate, or is it something which will happen now, from now on?
Well, I wish it will happen from now on, but it is the first time we collaborate together with BALLY.
Thank you.
Thank you. And also, this, just to finish, it makes also a lot of sense for us, because also BALLY is a Swiss brand. The tie with environment and the mountains is something that we feel very close to us as a Swiss brand. You can imagine we have been sponsoring many winter sports teams, but also expeditions. You might know that one of the first men on the top of the Everest was wearing BALLY boots in '53. So we continue to support through our foundation, also the BALLY Peak Outlook Foundation, the preservation of the mountain environments. So this dialogue, and that is illustrated today between art and environment, this is something that really matters for us, and that we are extremely proud to to support today through this beautiful installation. So thank you. And now I hand it over to you.
I do see that you are meant to collaborate in a way. The mountains, the let's say the flair of this very contemporary expression, which is in fashion very important, but also values which go beyond now, which are quality, craftsmanship, the way of execution, and I do see how you meet well. Yes, thank you very much, Douglas. Swiss-born artist, living in Zurich, right? You did École. And you started as photographer immediately, or did you do something before?
No, after studies I started working actually as a freelance photographer and try to get my own way out of school.
And what's interesting about your work is that you experiment also with the technique. Some older work is, let's say, edited post-production on the computer, but some is really produced in real time with new technique that you invent.
Yeah, I usually tend to avoid digital techniques, so I will talk about it later, but this is all analog, what you see on the wall, and I like to bring back to today actually, say, traditional or handmade techniques which are connected to photography but also other disciplines. And this is for me a way to talk about time and the evolution of technology, because the technique is always evolving, especially in photography, and therefore I tend to avoid using too much computer. Yeah.
Just to explain a little bit more, we were in the mountains, right?
Yes.
And you are working with ice.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So he, as far as I understand, puts ice on the paper, on the photographic paper, and the ice melts and does this kind of very natural, beautiful movement of liquid, of light. Could you explain a little bit more the process? What you did?
Absolutely. So basically my work is driven by the global change we're facing, and with my work I try to address issues of climate change and environmental consciousness through visible elements. And basically, as a Swiss-born artist, the melting of Swiss glaciers is of course a very visible and tangible theme which I wanted to research about. And so the pictures you see, it's basically the idea to explore the phenomenon of melting ice. And so like you said, Birgit, I actually travel myself to the mountains and spend a lot of time there. And I use ice from the glacier, so basically ice which is melting, which I put in a special camera, which is a sort of dark box like this. I put it on top of photosensitive paper, so it's a sensitive paper to the light. So it's a very old way of working with photography, but without camera. So it's really just using the ice, which starts to melt on the paper as I am in the mountains, and the light comes in and record actually and throws a trace on the paper. And so basically, after this, I need to come back to a lab in Zurich and protect from the lights all these papers which have been exposed.
In fact, I was asking, where did you do the work? Because he did it really in the mountains and did not ship the ice to Zurich, for example. he did it in situ.
No, everything is in situ.
And the problem was shipping the photosensitive paper and not getting light, exposed to light. So this has been pretty complicated, I guess.
Actually, that's the whole challenge of the project, because it has to stay dark the whole time. So I use a mobile darkroom, which is actually a van, which I covered completely in order to have the backside, the trunk is actually completely dark. And so that's how I work. And I bring the ice in, and the ice comes out, but the paper stays in. So it's really like, it has to be, and then from the mountains back to Zurich, everything has to be completely dark until it gets in the machine to be developed. So, and there I see what I have done, and sometimes something happened in the process which I don't have the control over, and that means that I spent 2 days doing absolutely nothing because the paper came out black, and that brings me to actually question my process and find new solutions. And
so when you say black, how come colors are different. What happened that this is bluish and this is orange? Why?
This is something I started to experiment on the way, because the original color of the weather, if I use sunlight, so basically the sunlight will come out orange on this in this process. So if you just use regular light from here, on this paper it will be printed in orange. And sometimes through the ice there has been some refraction of the light because of the ice transforming the light, and that created some shades of green or blue. And this is something I started to influence by using colored filters actually at the entrance of the box where the light comes. Exactly. So this is something I started to turn into an experimental and blind composition actually, because I have no idea. I can influence the things, but I have no idea exactly what's going to happen in the end.
What is interesting about this work is that it's completely experimental, as far as I know, original, because I have researched a bit and could not find something where I could say you saw this or that. So you really did it on your own, you developed it. But the intention of sustainability, to underline a big problem without being polemic, without saying so much, trying to say it with beauty, which is one of the most difficult things to do. I really congratulate myself.
Thank you, Birgit. No.
I think this is something which gives emotion to people, and emotion is a very strong drive for.
Exactly. As an artist, I think my mission is different than a journalist, for example, because I have informations. I have a message which I try to communicate, but the idea is to reach a more meditative or more abstract dimension where actually, like you said, you provide emotions to people and you can communicate about a deep issue which we are now facing, yet in a very contemplative way. So this was the challenge for me also, to find the real abstraction and without working with computers, or to be as true and as pure as possible to nature, because in the end what you see here is really the ice, the trace of the ice on the paper and illuminated by light. So there is nothing else. Yeah.
And if you allow me, this is a constant in Douglas' work, because I discovered Douglas' work before collaborating with him. I just fell in love with his work, and there are two layers in his work. The first layer, obviously these are beautiful images. We see here a series of images, but there are so many of your pieces that are so beautiful. But then there is always a second message. And there is this constant about this message about rising awareness about climate change. And we all have to do something with that. This is why, as brand, also we were extremely proud to partner and to support and to put your work and also your message into the spotlight.
We say a big thank you to Christian Fischbacher for making this big enlargement, because as far as I understand, those pictures are like 40 per 40 or something?
The originals are quite small, yes, because that depends always on the dimension of the camera which I can build. And of course there are physical limits to it, which are beyond, this is way beyond the possibilities so far, but why not? This could be inspiring.
It's super beautiful, gigantic like this.
It actually works really well, yes, yeah. So,
if we don't have anything urgent to add, I would like to ask the audience if there are some questions. Simon?
Great. Super, absolutely brilliant. So congratulations to you, Douglas. Birgit said already that something so beautiful and so abstract can carry such a powerful message about carry such a kind of amazing social commentary. And congratulations also to BALLY as well for facilitating that. I just wanted to ask you both, maybe in turn, to say something about how you choose who to collaborate with. So BALLY, with this great design heritage, but also a commercial company, how you choose which creatives to partner with, and also for an artist, it's very important to retain credibility when you get in bed with a kind of commercial enterprise. How do you check that it's the right fit? Because the charge of greenwashing is so readily made. what kind of due diligence do you do on both kind of sides to make sure, look, this is going to work in terms of messaging?
So first, as a brand, I think that it's important to have a dialogue with an artist and not to engage directly into a kind of collaboration and something that could be commercial. I told you, we had already this dialogue between Douglas and ourselves as a brand, and I think it's important to know each other, to share values, and we have been spending time together simply because I love his work, I bought his work, and at one point we say to ourselves, we might be doing something together. Then there is a frame which is respecting certain values. So to share these values, and this frame was set. And then I think that the best ideas are always coming with, crazy moment of brainstorming. And this is what happened with Tobia in an afternoon on rooftop in Zurich, when he was telling me about this project, this crazy project, and we were all brainstorming together. And his name came immediately to my mind, that it could have been the right artist to support the message that we want to pass through this installation. So I would say it's a combination of first putting a frame that relies on values, sharing certain values, and then, there is a need of a spark to get the magic happening. And I think that from what I see here tonight, I think that this spark has, and this magic has happened.
Exactly. So from my side, I think the idea of value frame is a very good term, because it's, first of all, it has to happen within a frame which for me is familiar and which supports my own values, which I have in my work. So it's I do a completely independent work otherwise, and I'm only driven by my own experience, my research, and society. So basically, if those values are met, and that no influence will come on the freedom in the process, which it sounds cliche, but it's actually true, that I've been able to express whatever I wanted to say, and with the format, so there's basically no limits, and I think it's been a very comfortable way of working with BALLY, that there was practically no limits set to creativity or to the message. So for me, the message is the most important, and from then on, if we can express the message in a pure and authentic way, then we can consider collaboration.
And just sorry to complete, and you mentioned this greenwashing aspect, and we can die of greenwashing. If we, the brand, are doing only greenwashing, we are going into a war. So this is why it's very important, and I'm sure that he has been doing his diligence also to walk the talk. If we think that our duties on environment matters stops to supporting artists and doing these beautiful events, as beautiful as they are, we are completely getting wrong. So we are walking over the talk. Basically, we took commitment as a brand, and we want to deliver on what we are doing, or what we have been committing to. And it's very important to have this balance. Raising awareness is very important, but raising awareness without doing anything as a brand on our operations, on our supply chain, is greenwashing. So this is why it's extremely important to, yes, support artists, support this message, and trying to raise awareness through our reach, because as brands, we have a reach, but at the same time, brands, we are part of the problem. So we need to move in a direction that will solve this problem. And this is through our efforts and commitment on changing our operations, changing our supply chains, changing the way we operate, that we will solve the problem.
But we all need symbols, and it has to start somewhere.
Exactly.
And this is a very strong icon to work with, and I congratulate you too, because it's not, he has experience in photography, advertisement, and things like this. So it's not that you have commissioned him to do things. He had a vision, did experimentation, and you were clever enough to find him. So I think this is completely different as a collaboration than it usually happens.
Yes, and like you said, Nicolas, we met, like 6-8 months ago? A bit more, no, even a year ago, I think.
1 year and a half.
And this is usually a good sign when you meet with someone, you discuss about common values, but it had the time it took the time it took to actually find the right project. And this is where also for me, it's a very selective process. I don't do collaborations often, and I do some research as well. And this is also a good sign for me that someone is actually thinking about how can we seriously get involved together for a common project.
Do we have more questions?
Hi. I was just wondering that since this is the first time that you've scaled up your work so much and on a, I suppose, a different material, if you have any ideas about experimenting with these images in different forms or different environments, or like creating even more immersive spaces than like.
Well, I like the idea that arts, whatever it is, can become a sort of experience, physical experience, and that has a lot to do with the way it's installed in the end. So even if the original pictures of those are quite small, this actually gives an extra information or an extra, it adds to the experience actually that you can feel actually when you're on a glacier or when you're in nature, that you feel, you know, overwhelmed by the elements. And this actually, it's a micro scale if you want, because they're a really small piece of ice compared to the existing mass. But this actually gives back the feeling of grandeur, of you know, magnitude. So it's actually quite an interesting achievement.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
Being a fashion brand, obviously I'm very interested about the creative process, and I would like to understand from you how your idea generation process. I know your work, and that span on many elements. So how came to you these ideas, and how you put them to work?
So it's really a lot of research, almost scientific. I collaborate with scientifics, also with the Swiss glaciology team from the ETH. So it's actually a lot of, it's more than curiosity. I'm not a scientist myself, but I need a lot of research. I read a lot, and I try to actually connect all these fields of science, philosophy, arts, technique, and somehow it's actually about eating a lot of information, processing a lot, and it's all about our society nowadays. So those are really contemporary issues that drive me. And eventually, by getting to know all these things and processing all these informations, I come up with some kind of connections between informations which don't have, at the first sight, a real connection. So at my knowledge, the process of photogram, which you see here, which is a very old photographic process, has never been connected really with the idea of ice. So the idea to connect those different points is what gives the idea to a project. Usually it's an idea, so it's really based on ideas, and I don't know if it's going to work. So in this case, it didn't work at first. There was a lot of try and fail.
So there is failure?
Yes, a lot.
What would this make to be not acceptable?
It's basically as soon as it's too opaque, it's too dark or too white. As long as you don't have enough material to really grab like textures.
So sorry to ask, this is 1 of 100, and only 1 is good, and 99 were not satisfactory.
I would go for a ratio of 1 to 12 or something like this.
1 to 12.
So it's a lot of days spent in the cold doing things which I know might lead to nothing, but every time they come out of the development machine, I come up with new questions. And this is just for this process. And I work in a high variety of mediums, and this is for me important to start with an idea, then let the idea dictate what's going to be, or encourage what the process is going to be. So in that sense, I can't say that I show up with an idea. I just wonder, hey, what happens if I connect those two existing things and try to do something new out of it? So this is something that hasn't been seen before. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you
Birgit.
very much.
Thank you, Nicolas, and the DAAily group as well. So really, thank you everyone for making this event possible.
And now, soon we will have a little party.
Very much. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you
Very much.